10 Fascinating Archaeological Unsolved Mysteries from Asia. Asia is home to many great archaeological wonders, such as the Great Wall of China and the Lost City of Petra. With the help of archaeology and science, many of these old world marvels have been fully understood, yielding invaluable insight into the history, technology, and lives of ancient civilizations. However, there are a few that haven't yet given up their secrets. They are shrouded in mystery, and only time will tell if their ancient secrets will be revealed or forever concealed.
1. Earthen Mounds, Cambodia. Using airborne laser scanning equipment, archaeologists have discovered vast fields of dome-shaped earthen mounds, arranged into gridded patterns, in 1,000-year-old Cambodian cities. The scientists are puzzled as to what these vast dome fields, as archaeologists sometimes call them, would have been used for around 1,000 years ago, calling them the most enigmatic features from this archaeological landscape. In addition to the dome fields, archaeologists also found mounds shaped into geometric patterns, such as spirals. These geometric features are located near Cambodian temple complexes, including examples found near Angkor Wat. The finding is part of a huge project in which archaeologists, with the Cambodian Archaeological Litter Initiative, CALI, are targeting areas located near large temple complexes, such as Angkor Wat. Sizable cities often existed within and around these temples, and archaeologists have gradually uncovered these cities since the 1990s. Damien Evans, an archaeologist with the École Française d'Extrême-Orient, wrote in a report published Monday, June 13, in the Journal of Archaeological Science. Many of the cities studied were part of the Khmer Empire, which, at its height in the 12th and 13th centuries AD, stretched across much of mainland Southeast Asia, with a network of highways connecting far-flung settlements to the Angkorian heartland in Cambodia, Evans wrote. The empire was centered at the city of Angkor, where Angkor Wat is located. The researchers used laser scanning equipment attached to low-flying helicopters in order to penetrate the thick foliage of the Cambodian jungle. Their work revealed earthen mounds and markings on the ground left over from decayed buildings made of wood and other organic material, Evans said. The airborne scans, carried out in 2015, and covered more than 735 square miles, 1,910 square kilometers, of Cambodia. These scans revealed more information about the city of Mandra, which flourished more than 1,000 years ago, in the early years of the Khmer Empire. A scan in 2012 that mapped out 140 square miles, 370 square kilometers, of Cambodia had already revealed a sizable part of that city. Conventionally, the classical Angkorian period begins with the 8th to 9th century city of Mandra, located north of Angkor, Evans wrote in his paper. Though Evans and his colleagues are still determining the size of Mandra, there is evidence that Angkor period archaeological topography, or the shape of the ground that appears to indicate a human presence, covers 15 to 20 square miles, 40 to 50 square kilometers, he said. Much of that archaeological topography consisted of grid-like arrangements of mounds, Evans said. Similar dome fields have been found in other parts of Cambodia. The purpose of these dome fields is unknown. Surface surveys and excavations of these mounds have revealed little of archaeological interest, and they remain among the most enigmatic features of Khmer landscape archaeology, Evans wrote. They're an interesting problem, said Roland Fletcher, a professor at the University of Sydney who works with Evans but didn't co-author this particular study. Equally enigmatic are the geometric rectilinear patterns made from earthen embankments and variously described as coils, spirals, geoglyphs or gardens, Evans wrote. These spiral-shaped features were discovered in 2012 south of Angkor Wat Moat, and in the more recent survey at two other sites in Cambodia called Bing Mili and Priakan of Kampong Svei. Excavations of these linear features at Angkor have also revealed little of archaeological interest, and their function remains unclear, Evans wrote. The geometric features were constructed using different designs and are located beside water sources near the temple complexes, Fletcher said. The designs vary. For instance, the features near Angkor Wat look more like spirals, whereas the designs at Priakonov Kompongsve are mostly made of straight lines. Since the features do mechanically resemble well-known raised fields elsewhere, my inclination has always been to view them as a horticultural system of some sort for specialized plant production, Fletcher said. Archaeologists were also surprised to find the remains of a city at the site of Priakonov Kompongsve. The geometric patterns are just one part of that urban landscape. Though Priakonov Kompongsve contains a temple complex, archaeologists had thought it was sparsely populated. Many years of study using conventional sensors and ground survey had led to the conclusion that the enclosures at Priakonov Kompongsve were sparsely inhabited, Evans wrote. However, the new airborne laser data clearly show an urban layout within the central moat of the site, which is surrounded by an extended, less organized urban grid, Evans wrote. That suggests that the site contained a sizable population, noted. Archaeologists are continuing to analyze the airborne laser data and are conducting more fieldwork in Cambodia. More results will be published in the months and years ahead, the researchers said.
2. Steppe geoglyphs Kazakhstan. Rings, crosses, circles, squares, and a swastika are some of the many intricate designs of the enigmatic and ancient geoglyphs spread across the vast northern steppe of Kazakhstan. 50 huge geoglyphs were discovered by archaeologists in 2007, and were revealed last year, but researchers still seek to piece together who built the large-scale creations or why. Archaeologists Irina Shevnina and Andrew Logvin, who discovered the geoglyphs, said of the finds, "As of today, we can say only one thing: the geoglyphs were built by ancient people." According to IB Times, the sprawling creations are built up mountains on top of the earth, unlike the famous Nazca lines of Peru, which were dug and scraped into the earth. The mounds, found in the Torgay region in Kazakhstan, are typically formed with rocks, stone fragments, brush, gravel and soil. Like other giant geoglyphs, they are easily visible from altitude, and researchers have surveyed sites using satellite images from Google Earth. Last year a team of archaeologists from Kastane University in Kazakhstan, and Vilnius University in Lithuania, investigated the giant structures using aerial photography and ground-penetrating radar. A wide variety of shapes were revealed, with sizes ranging from 90 to 400 meters, 295 to 1,312 feet, in diameter. They were mostly shaped out of earth, but the swastika geoglyph was found to have been made out of timber, and as such is not in good condition. Pittsburgh University scientists Shulker Adamikov and Ronald Laporte are currently working to get the area designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site to protect the archaeologically important sites. The geoglyphs are thought to date back 3,000 to 7,000 years. A protected designation may help preserve the ancient sites, and it seems to be sorely needed. In July it was reported by the international news agency Kazinform that some of the unique glyphs had been irreparably destroyed by reconstruction of roads through the area. The road reconstruction project was carried out in 2013, and it passed through the center of the Kazakh archaeological complex. The head of the Department of Technical Supervision Office of Transport and Highways of the Kastane region said the repairs did not exceed the boundaries of the original road, which was built in the 1970s, but Kazinform claims in its article that the construction of a bypass road partially damaged a hill which was part of an historical object. Ancient geoglyphs are particularly vulnerable to damage. In 2014 Greenpeace environmental activists damaged the Nazca geoglyphs in Peru, when they walked on the delicate archaeological site to install a huge cloth message urging the use of renewable energy. Squatters and animals also pose a major problem for Nazca conservationists. Funding for research into the Torgay geoglyphs will be required if investigations and protections are to be accomplished. Shulker Adamikov told IB Times UK, "It's a complicated problem. Kazakhstan is an obscure country and no one knows much about it. It's not floating in world news, as a result few people know what's going on there. That's one part of the problem. Financing is another thing. Archaeology, as I understand, is not very well funded and Kazakhstan is a developing country. If we could attract more financing that would be great." Ronald Laporte, Professor Emeritus in Epidemiology, is pressing to have the ancient geoglyphs secured and protected. So little is known about them, he told IB Times. Our ancestors must have spent so much time building them that there had to have been an important function to their lives. Understanding these better is essential to understanding our own history, especially in Kazakhstan with a nomadic population. Why would they spend all these years building and going back and forth? In terms of the history of mankind, they mean something very important, but they just haven't been investigated, he said. In the ancient past of Kazakhstan, societies were nomadic, so it is not yet understood why, or how, people constantly on the move would stop to build such large-scale, permanent creations. It is thought the geoglyphs served religious purposes and might have been used for funeral ceremonies. They might also have served as family or tribal symbols, or were a means of marking ownership of the land. Some scientists believe they are linked to the heavens, with some representing constellations in the night sky. Other experts believe that the lines played a role in pilgrimage, with one walking across them to reach a sacred place. Yet another idea is that the lines are connected with water, something vital to life yet hard to get in the desert, and may have played a part in water-based rituals. Archaeological excavations at the Kazakhstan geoglyphs revealed the remains of structures and hearths, suggesting that rituals took place there. Research was presented last year at the Forum of the European Association of Archaeologists in Istanbul. The cultural and historic value associated with the geoglyphs has prompted some scientists to put them on par with international sites such as the Pyramids of Egypt, and Central American, and Britain's Stonehenge.
3. The Hanging Pillar of Lepakshi, India. A visit to Vijayanagar temple built on the spot, as legend has it, where Jatayu fell after being injured by Ravana. The guide whipped out a twig from his shirt pocket with a flourish and said dramatically, "Now I show you best part of Lepakshi temple." He got down on his knees before the large grey pillar before us. Bending forward, he passed the twig slowly under the pillar, from one end to the other. There was an audible gasp from the group of tourists, mostly Europeans, as the twig emerged from the other side. He repeated the exercise with a page of an old grimy newspaper, which he pulled out from another pocket. This was the famed hanging column or pillar of Lepakshi temple, located in Anantapur district in southern Andhra Pradesh. "This is the pillar which does not rest on the ground fully," the guide said, rising to stand beside us, and beaming triumphantly, almost as if he were the architect of this marvel. There are about 70 pillars at this fabulous 16th century temple of stone in Vijayanagar style, but this one is the best known and a tribute to the engineering genius of ancient and medieval India's temple builders. However, it is a bit dislodged from its original position. It is said that during the British era, a British engineer tried to move it in an unsuccessful attempt to uncover the secret of its support. Much of the temple is built on a low, rocky hill called Kurmasalam, which translates to Tortoise Hill in Telugu, after the shape of the hill. The temple dates back to 1583 and was built by the brothers, Virupana and Virana, who were initially in the service of the Vijayanagar kings. However, Puranic lore has it that the Virabhadra temple was built by the sage Agastya. It has idols of Ganesha, Nandi, Virabhadra, Shiva, Bhadrakali, Vishnu and Lakshmi. Another legend gives the town a significant place in the Ramayana. This was where the bird Jatayu fell, wounded after a futile battle against Ravana, who was carrying away Sita. When Sri Rama reached the spot, he saw the bird and said compassionately, "Lepakshi, rise, bird" in Telugu. Besides the hanging pillar, another draw is the spectacular Nandi, located almost a mile before the main temple, the first structure you will encounter. At 27 feet in length and 15 feet in height, it is a colossal structure, reputedly India's biggest monolithic Nandi. Besides the record size, the perfectly proportioned body, finely carved ornaments, and smooth contours add to its grandeur and make it a popular photo op with visitors. Once you reach the temple's outer enclosure, you will see a mammoth Ganesha, hewn in stone and leaning against a rock. Perpendicular to it is a massive naga with 3 coils and 7 hoods. It forms a sheltering canopy over a black granite Shivlingam. It's reckoned by many as the largest Naglinga in India. There are 2 red blotches on the western wall of the inner enclosure, explained by a gory story. Virupana, the royal treasurer, was accused of drawing funds without the king's permission from the state treasury to build these shrines. However, he forestalled the enraged king's punishment by blinding himself, and those maroon spots are said to be the marks left by his bleeding eyes. The temple's main deity is Virabhadra, the fiery god created by Shiva in his rage, after the Daksha Yagna and the immolation of Parvati. There are several forms of Shiva here: a majestic Kankalamurthy, Dakshinamurthy, Guru of Gurus, Tripurantaka or Tripurashura Samhara, vanquisher of demon Tripura, Ardhanarishwara, the half-female, half-male form, where Shiva and Parvati are equally represented in one body, etc. Another shrine has the fiery goddess Bhadrakali, though bearing an uncharacteristically serene expression. The Lepakshi temple also has the finest specimens of mural paintings of the Vijayanagar or kings. We were informed that the 24 by 14 feet fresco of Virabhadra on the ceiling, before the main sanctum sanctorum, is the largest in India of any single figure. The rest of the frescoes are also beautiful and show an impressive attention to detail with colors strikingly contrasted, black lime work against an orange-red background with some green, white, black, and shades of ochre gold and brown mostly applied to a stucco surface specially treated with lime. The Shiva Parvati Kalyanam, an enduringly popular subject with traditional Indian artists, finds expression here. However, these frescoes are peeling off in many places, and in need of better maintenance and expert restoration. After the ache in the neck from gazing upwards at these alluring frescoes, we sat down for a while, rubbing our necks, in the splendid Natya Mandapam or dance hall with its superbly sculpted pillars. The Kalyana Mandapam is another hall known for its artistic beauty. Among the many eye-catchers in this temple, the frieze of geese with lotus stalks in their beaks stands out. The Lepakshi temple also has the finest specimens of mural paintings of the Vijayanagar or kings. We were informed that the 24 by 14 feet fresco of Virabhadra on the ceiling, before the main sanctum sanctorum, is the largest in India of any single figure. The rest of the frescoes are also beautiful and show an impressive attention to detail with colors strikingly contrasted, black lime work against an orange-red background with some green, white, black, and shades of ochre gold and brown mostly applied to a stucco surface specially treated with lime. The Shiva Parvati Kalyanam, an enduringly popular subject with traditional Indian artists, finds expression here. However, these frescoes are peeling off in many places, and in need of better maintenance and expert restoration. After the ache in the neck from gazing upwards at these alluring frescoes, we sat down for a while, rubbing our necks, in the splendid Natya Mandapam or dance hall with its superbly sculpted pillars. The Kalyana Mandapam is another hall known for its artistic beauty. Among the many eye-catchers in this temple, the frieze of geese with lotus stalks in their beaks stands out. The Lepakshi temple is close to the famed pilgrim town of Puttaparthi, where the nearest decent accommodation is available, whether in the ashram or in the Andhra Pradesh government-run Siaramam. From here, it is an hour's drive to the temple. From Hyderabad it is about 480 kilometers and about 130 kilometers from Bangalore. The climate is hot for most of the year, and early mornings are the best time to visit. If you have time, check out nearby Dharmavaram, the well-known silk weaving center, and Hinjapur and surrounding villages where elegant cottons are woven.
4. Katshabib, Jordan. The Aerial Archaeology in Jordan project has mapped out a mysterious ancient wall in Jordan extending, for some 150 kilometers, 93 miles, leaving archaeologists perplexed as to how it was built and why. Live Science reports that the existence of the wall was first reported in 1948 by Sir Alec Kirkbride, a British diplomat in Jordan, who had seen the structure overhead while in an airplane. However, it is only now that the wall has been mapped out in detail with aerial photography by the APAM, a long-term research project designed to illuminate settlement history in the Near East. Mapping an ancient wall. While the locals have long known about the existence of the wall, no attempts had been made until now to investigate and map out the details of the ancient structure. Archaeologists with the Aerial Archaeology in Jordan project therefore set out to photograph and create a detailed map of the wall, revealing that it contains sections where two walls run side by side, and other sections where the wall branches off in another direction. If we add the spurs and stretches of parallel wall, the total wall length may be about 150 kilometers, 93 miles, wrote David Kennedy, a professor at the University of Western Australia, and Rebecca Banks, a research assistant at Oxford University, in a paper published recently in the journals Rift for Orient Archaeology. Sir Alec Kirkbride's observation of the ancient wall was recorded at the time in the journal Antiquity. Traveling by air over the Ma and district, I noticed a stone wall running, for no obvious purpose, across country, from a point about 12 kilometers west of the town of Ma'an and terminating near the edge of the scarp. Kirkbride reported that the local inhabitants refer to the wall as Kat Shebib, Shebib's wall, who claimed that the wall was built by a prince of the Himyarite dynasty named Emir Shebib el-Tubai el-Himyari, who ruled Transjordan before the advent of Islam. However, others argue that the wall was not built by Shebib but simply used by him in the 10th century as a border marker to separate the arable land, with water to the west from the barren hills and deserts of the nomads to the east. The wall is believed to have originally been a meter or meter and a half, 3.28 to 4.92 feet, in height, and was rough with no solid foundation, consisting simply of boulders piled one on top of the other. Nevertheless, the sheer size of the wall suggests that its construction was no easy feat. Because it was built of loose field stones, there is no way to tell exactly who first constructed the wall, reports Nabatea.net. However, to this day, this wall stands as a witness of the ingenuity of the people of that region, and as one of the least known, yet amazing structures in the Middle East. Along the Kat Shebib wall, archaeologists have also identified over 100 towers measuring 2 to 4 meters, 6.56 to 13.12 feet, in diameter. They are thought to have either been places of refuge or small watch posts, that could have had 1 or 2 men stationed there to watch for raiders trying to cross into their lands. However, the wall and towers sit in a wider landscape of ancient structures, that have mystified archaeologists for decades. Also situated in the deserts of Jordan are giant geoglyphs and earthworks in the shape of rings, kites, and wheels. The so-called works of old men are a series of giant wheels that have been dated to approximately 8,500 years, making them older than the famous Nazca lines in Peru by about 6,000 years. Archaeologists are still uncertain about who constructed the giant earthworks and structures across the landscape of Jordan and what their original purpose was. It is hoped that further investigations may help to unravel some of the mystery.
5. Nitzana, Haluza, and Shivta Israel. Breakfast. Come to breakfast, shouts Professor Guy Baraz, head of the archaeology department at the University of Haifa, as he strolls among the ruins of the ancient city of Shivta. Half the time I'm like a shepherd gathering his flock, he growls good-naturedly, as he continues to collect people from the various dig sites under his supervision. He prepares a typical Israeli breakfast: hard-boiled eggs, sliced bread, cheeses, chopped vegetables, ready-made hummus and chocolate spread, in one of the ancient buildings that has been partially reconstructed, with a stone roof atop its archways. Then he sets up the table on the main street of the city, next to the 2 pools of water at the front of the church. This was once a very rare sight that greeted visitors to the desert city, surrounded by yellow sands. The people working on the dig, a mix of professors and experts in different fields, doctoral students, undergraduates and teenage volunteers from schools in the area, come in from the 12 dig sites. Having begun the workday at first light, 3 hours later they've worked up a good appetite. For a little while there's a pleasant, friendly gathering around the table, before everyone scatters to continue rummaging through ancient refuse. These leavings are a time capsule in which clues to the lives of the ancient inhabitants are preserved, including remnants that attest to the type of food that was eaten by the people who lived in this place 1,500 years ago. Something went wrong. In recent months, The team from Haifa University has been heading south every other week to examine the remnants of the refuse left behind by inhabitants of the ancient cities of Nutsana, Haluza and Shifta. The large-scale project, estimated to last for 5 years and funded by the European Union, aims to crack the mystery of why these once thriving commercial and cultural hubs were ultimately abandoned. One day, or perhaps it occurred gradually over a longer period of time, the inhabitants packed their things, carefully sealed up their homes so they could come back to them in the future, and disappeared, never to return again. The people who lived here put tremendous energy into construction and infrastructure. They wanted to stay here forever, but something went wrong, says Baraz. The next time you find settlement in the Negev is over 1,000 years later, with the Zionist movement. In the scholarly literature, a number of possible theories for the abandonment have been proposed: climate change, a cultural change like the Muslim conquest, or an epidemic like the plague that struck the region in the 6th century. We're trying to solve the mystery of why they left once and for all, and we're looking at the collapse of Byzantine society in the Negev as a test case that also has importance for the modern world, from the point of view of sustainability and understanding the attempt to cope with changes. The 3 southern cities are generally thought to be associated with the start of permanent Nabatean, 1 Street 3 RD century CE, settlement, but no Nabatean artifacts have been found so far. I don't want to denigrate classic Israeli archaeology, and we're far from finishing the excavations and analyzing all the findings in the lab, but so far we've been digging and digging, getting down to the foundations of the buildings, and we're not finding Nabatean artifacts, says Baraz. In any case, the current team is interested in exploring the city's later period, in the 7th century, and the transition from the Byzantine to the early Muslim period. In its glory days, the city had about 170 houses and a population of about 2,000, says Dr. Yotam Teper, Baraz's colleague, who was managing the excavations at the site. But toward the end there were only 25 houses. Abandoned houses were being used as garbage dumps. In one of those houses, Racheli Belvis, a graduate student in archaeology, is sifting through big piles of ancient garbage hiding in mounds of dirt and soot. By the end of the day, the arduous effort and systematic sampling yield stones that were used to line the bottoms of ancient ovens, ceramic fragments, coins, 1,500-year-old date pits and bones. The most striking finding are fish bones, since this city is situated in the middle of the desert, very far from the sea. In particular, the ancient inhabitants evidently dined on colorful parrotfish, which were brought from the Red Sea, dried and preserved. So far, it's what we haven't found in the excavations that's the most interesting story, says archaeologist Dr. Nimrod Me'am. In other digs we find and fill crate after crate of mammal and bird bones, the basics of the diet for that period, and here we maybe have a quarter of a crate full of sheep and pig bones. We're finding a relatively large amount of fish bones, which attests to economic strength, and perhaps was also a food that was a status symbol. People may have enjoyed showing off their wealth by having a diet rich in fish in the middle of the desert. We know there was well-developed viticulture here and a wine industry that was not just for personal consumption. The vineyards were irrigated with floodwaters collected by a sophisticated system of dams, and famous wines were produced and then shipped through the port of Gaza, and whoever went to export wine came back with fish. We even found a crocodile vertebra, more evidence of the exotic products consumed by well-off people. And the dates, which don't grow in the Ramat Hanjav area, are further proof of a thriving economy and the import of raw materials. I hope we'll continue to find sheep bones and the bones of other animals. In the ancient world, bones were used for fertilizing the fields, so maybe we'll find them in the garbage mounds outside the city, so they can teach us about the changes in consumption habits, if, for example, they stopped eating pork during the Muslim era, or if they raised more goats than sheep, which in the ancient world attests to a lower level of agricultural skill and a lower economic status. Doctoral student Daniel Fox, who oversees the botanical archaeology at the site, stands in the city square and operates his pride and joy, the machine. It's made up of 3 empty dumpsters, a fine mesh fabric, and water hoses, and is used to filter out very small and delicate artifacts, such as plant seeds, which float on the water. We've found wheat, barley, olive and grape pits, the crops you would expect in a 7-species economy, he says. These findings will enable us to ask interesting questions such as what was the ratio of wheat to barley, which can attest to a cultural shift, and which varieties of wheat were grown in a hot and dry climate, things that have applications in the modern world. If one day we are able to recreate different ancient plants and animals, it will be due to the work of people like Meravmri, an archaeologist whose focus is genetics. Israel is a frustrating place for people who deal in ancient DNA, she laughs. A few latitude lines north of here you can find entire mammoths preserved with their internal organs even, but in this hot and humid climate it's hard for organic materials to be preserved. I hope that in the dry climate here we'll find interesting things. Genetic analysis of a tiny grape pit can tell us a lot about the way of life of the people who grew it. If we find rodent bones or human bones, we'll be able to see if the plague or other epidemics really played a role in the city's abandonment.
6. Ifugao Rice Terraces, Philippines. Soaring to great heights, the Ifugao Rice Terraces is touted to be a masterpiece of the ingenuity of the highland people in northern Philippines for generations. Its beauty, magnitude, people and history is truly breathtaking. But up to this day, questions remain on how old the Ifugao Rice Terraces really is. For so many years, local and foreign anthropologists, archaeologists and historians continue to provoke interest and imagination to the origin and age of the rice terraces. Textbooks and national histories have long been carrying the findings of American anthropologists Roy F. Burton and Henry Otley Bayer, putting the age of the rice terraces to be 2,000 or 3,000 years old. Other scholars have argued that the existence of the rice terraces might be 300 years old, or as late as the arrival of the Spanish in the Philippine lowlands. But according to the latest findings of the Ifugao Archaeological Project led by Filipino archaeologist Stephen Acevedo, the Ifugao Rice Terraces were built circa 1500 to 1600 AD, making it 400 to 500 years old only. It's a great mystery. The debates on the actual age of the rice terraces are still intense because of the implications that are attached to the antiquity of the rice terraces, such as its history, tourism, among others, Acevedo told the Philippine Enviro News, who presented his group's initial findings at the University of the Philippines Baguio last week. Acevedo said his group excavated on the site of the old Kayangan village in Ifugao using the bulk soil radiocarbon dates and the Bayesian approach or tools to determine the antiquity and age of events. Acevedo said that by using digitized land use maps and ethnographic data on rice terracing practices in Ifugao, they identified the Bocos terrace system in Banay as the oldest terraces. Excavations were conducted there to obtain charcoal samples for radiocarbon determinations. In their study, Acevedo said that the dating of the Ifugao agricultural terraces provides several contributions to the Philippine and Southeast Asian. First, he argued, the Bayesian model offers an approach to date other agricultural terrace system in the Cordillera and the rest of Southeast Asia. Second, the radiocarbon determinations and subsequent calibrations from the Bocos agricultural terraces suggests that the suite of agricultural strategies of ancient Filipinos include terracing. Indeed, terraces can be seen across the Philippine archipelago, not as magnificent as what we see in the Cordilleras, but illustrates similar technology, he added. He said that based on their findings, the extent of the rice terraces that we see today could be a product of historical population movements in between 1500–1600 AD. If the initial terrace expansion coincides with the arrival of the Spanish in the northern Luzon lowlands in AD 1585, this correlation may suggest that indigenous population migration away from the Spanish invasion and into the highland was significant enough to expand terrace systems, their study indicated. Acevedo argued that earlier studies on the actual age of the rice terraces in Ifugao lack systematic archaeological data. Their project is a collaboration among the National Museum of the Philippines, Save the Ifugao Terraces Movement, SITMO, the Cordillera Studies Center, University of the Philippines Baguio, Archaeological Studies Program, University of the Philippines Diliman, the University of Guam and the local government of Ifugao. What matters most? Acabado, however, said that the aim of their archaeological works in Ifugao also aim to promote the idea that an older or later dating does not diminish the heritage value of the Ifugao rice terraces. The rice terraces symbolizes the rich culture of Filipinos. Rehabilitation and restoration efforts of the people in Ifugao and the Philippine government are much needed in order to preserve its integrity and survival, Acabado stressed. In 1995, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, inscribed 5 clusters of the rice terraces to its World Heritage List, those of Batad and Bangan, in Banay, Nagakadan, in Kayangan, Hungjuan, and Moyao. For Marlon Martin, Chief Operating Officer of the Save the Ifugao Terraces movement, SITMO, the actual age of the rice terraces does not matter to the people of Ifugao. We hope that this latest archaeological finding would boost our campaign to integrate cultural heritage and indigenous knowledge at the heart of formal education systems, Martin said. He lamented that indigenous knowledge transfer is ever important as most of the elders are now dying or too old to teach. Also at present, environmental degradation and neglect, largely brought about by modern life, and changing values of Ifugao's young generation, have robbed this natural wonder of its exotic beauty. Already, sections of the terraces have worn away, with jagged earth now showing where green rice stalks once swayed. It's also a challenge for us to restore, rehabilitate and maintain the beauty of our heritage. Some people also abandoned the terraces in favor of more lucrative livelihood opportunities in big cities, Martin said. According to the belief of most of the Ifugaos, God gave them the rice terraces, which enabled them to live and grow food in a harsh environment. Whatever the age of the rice terraces is, it is still a testimony to the splendor of the ancient cultural landscape and the rich culture of the people, Martin said.
7. Big Circles, Jordan. Huge stone circles in the Middle East have been imaged from above, revealing details of structures that have been shrouded in mystery for decades. Archaeologists in Jordan have taken high-resolution aerial images of 11 ancient big circles, all but one of which are around 400 meters, 1,312 feet, in diameter. Why they are so similar is unknown, but the similarity seems too close to be a coincidence, said researcher David Kennedy. The big circles, as archaeologists call them, were built with low stone walls that are no more than a few feet high. The circles originally contained no openings, and people would have had to hop over the walls in order to get inside. Their purpose is unknown, and archaeologists are unsure when these structures were built. Analysis of the photographs, as well as artifacts found on the ground, suggest the circles date back at least 2,000 years, but they may be much older. They could even have been constructed in prehistoric times, before writing was invented, scientists say. Though the big circles were first spotted by aircraft in the 1920s, little research has focused on these structures, and many scientists are not even aware of their existence, something these archaeologists hope the new aerial images will help to change. The most important contribution is simply to collect and make known a large group of rather remarkable sites, writes Kennedy, a professor at the University of Western Australia, in an article published recently in the journals Rift for Orient Archaeology. In addition to the 11 photographed circles, researchers have identified another similar circle in Jordan, which appears to have been only partially completed, Kennedy noted. Old satellite imagery also reveals 2 circles, one in Jordan and another in Syria, which have both been destroyed. The circle in Syria was destroyed within the last decade and the one in Jordan a few decades ago. A separate research team, from Durham University, investigated the Syria circle before it was completely gone. While there are many smaller stone circles in the Middle East, what makes these 11 big circles stand out is their large size and ancient age, Kennedy said. Kennedy has been leading the Aerial Archaeology in Jordan project, ADGE, since 1997. And also co-directs the Aerial Photographic Archive for Archaeology in the Middle East, APAIM. Building the big circles. The circles would not have been hard to build, Kennedy said. They were constructed mainly with local rocks, and a dozen people working hard could potentially complete a big circle in a week, Kennedy told Live Science in an email. However, building the circles in a precise shape would have taken some planning. In the case of those circles, that are near-precise circles, it would have required at least one person as architect, Kennedy said, adding that this architect could simply have tied a long rope to a post and walked in a circle, marking the ground as he or she moved around. That would also explain the glitches in the circles, where the land was uneven, as the architect wouldn't have been able to keep walking in a perfect circle at those spots. The purpose of the big circles is a mystery, Kennedy said. It seems unlikely that they were originally used as corrals, as the walls were no more than a few feet high. The circles contain no structures that would have helped maintain an animal herd, and there's no need for animal corrals to have such a precise shape, he said. One of the circles contains 3 cairns, or rock piles, on its edges that may have been used for burial. However, Kennedy said, my inference is that the cairns were built later, when the enclosure was no longer significant. Solving the circle mystery. In order to solve the mystery, archaeologists must conduct more actual fieldwork, Kennedy said, noting that aerial images are helpful but can't replace excavation. Archaeologists Graham Phillip and Jenny Bradbury, both with Durham University in England, have examined a big circle they found near Homs in Syria. While the circle was badly damaged when the researchers found it, they completed their fieldwork before land development completely destroyed the structure. This big circle was positioned in such a way that it could give someone standing inside it a panoramic view of a basin that would have held crops and settlements, the researchers reported in a 2010 paper in the journal Levant. This may have played an important part in the location of the enclosure, the 2 archaeologists wrote in the Levant article. Recent satellite imagery shows that the circle near Homs is now virtually destroyed, Kennedy wrote. Also at present, environmental degradation and neglect, largely brought about by modern life and changing values of Fujiao's young generation, have robbed this natural wonder of its exotic beauty. Already, sections of the terraces have worn away, with jagged earth now showing where green rice stalks once swayed. It's also a challenge for us to restore, rehabilitate and maintain the beauty of our heritage. Some people also abandoned the terraces in favor of more lucrative livelihood opportunities in big cities, Martin said. According to the belief of most of the Ifujiaos, God gave them the rice terraces, which enabled them to live and grow food in a harsh environment. Whatever the age of the rice terraces is, it is still a testimony to the splendor of the ancient cultural landscape and the rich culture of the people, Martin said.
8. Baigong Pipes, China. In a mysterious pyramid in China's Qinghai province, near Mount Baigong are 3 caves filled with pipes leading to a nearby saltwater lake. There are also pipes under the lake bed and on the shore. The iron pipes range in size, with some smaller than a toothpick. The strangest part is that they may be about 150,000 years old. Dating done by the Beijing Institute of Geology determined, these iron pipes were smelted about 150,000 years ago, if they were indeed made by humans, according to Brian Dunning of Skeptoid.com. And if they were made by humans, history as it is commonly viewed would have to be re-evaluated. The dating was done using thermoluminescence, a technique that determines how long ago crystalline mineral was exposed to sunlight or heated. Humans are only thought to have inhabited the region for the past 30,000 years. Even within the known history of the area, the only humans to inhabit the region were nomads, whose lifestyle would not leave any such structures behind. The state-run news agencies in Hua in China reported on the pyramid, the pipes, and the research began by a team scientists sent to investigate in 2002. Though some have since tried to explain the pipes as a natural phenomenon, Yang Ji, a research fellow at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, told Xinhua the pyramid may have been built by intelligent beings. He did not dismiss the theory that ancient extraterrestrials may be responsible, saying this theory is understandable and worth looking into. But scientific means must be employed to prove whether or not it is true. Another theory is that it was built by prehistoric humans with techniques lost to humans of a later period. The pipes lead into a salty lake, though a twin lake nearby contains fresh water. The surrounding landscape is strewn with what Xinhua described as strangely shaped stones. Rocks protrude from the ground like broken pillars. The head of the publicity department at the local Linga government told Xinhua the pipes were analyzed at a local smeltery, and 8% of the material could not be identified. The rest was made up of ferric oxide, silicon dioxide, and calcium oxide. The silicon dioxide and calcium oxide are products of long interaction between the iron and surrounding sandstone, showing the ancient age of the pipes. Liu Shailin, the engineer who did the analysis, told Xinhua, "This result has made the site even more mysterious. Nature is harsh here," he said. "There are no residents, let alone modern industry in the area, only a few migrant herdsmen to the north of the mountain." To further add to the mystery, Zheng Jiandong, a geology research fellow from the China Earthquake Administration, told state-run newspaper People's Daily in 2007, that some of the pipes were found to be highly radioactive. Jiandong said iron-rich magma may have risen from deep in the earth, bringing the iron into fissures, where it would solidify into tubes. Though he admitted, there is indeed something mysterious about these pipes. He cited the radioactivity as an example of the strange qualities of the pipes. Others have said iron sediments may have washed into the fissures, carried with water during floods. Those in Xinhua and other publications in China have referred to a pyramid, or even a mysterious pyramid in which the pipes were found. Some have said it was a pyramid-shaped natural formation. Another theory is that the pipes are fossilized tree roots. Xinmin Weekly reported in 2003 that scientists found plant matter in an analysis of the pipes, and they also found what looked like tree rings. The article related the finding to a geological theory that in certain temperatures and under certain chemical conditions, tree roots can undergo diagenesis, transformation of soil into rock, and other processes that can produce iron formations. Reports on the tree root explanation for the so-called Baigong pipes often lead back to this Xinmin Weekly article or lack citation. It's unclear exactly how well supported this theory is in relation to the Baigong pipes. An article published in the Journal of Sedimentary Research in 1993 describes fossilized tree roots in South Louisiana in the United States.
9. St. Matthew's final resting place, Kyrgyzstan. The ruins of a lost ancient civilization have been found in a lake in Kyrgyzstan, where Matthew the Apostle could be buried. Russian divers made the sensational discovery at Lake Issyk-Kul, where another metropolis was uncovered in 2007. The most astonishing discovery made by the divers was a piece of a ceramic pot with a stamp apparently inscribed in Armenian and Syrian scripts. This artifact could prove that there was an Armenian monastery on the lake where, according to legend, St. Matthew's body and his many relics were buried. The divers from Tomsk State University in Siberia found more than 200 artifacts, thought to be from the Saka civilization's 2,500-year-old settlement, between 3 and 70 feet under the surface. This was made amid these ancient ruins but is from a later period. Analysis of the artifact is now underway, but archaeologists say the find may support a theory of a medieval Armenian monastery here. Some Orthodox Christians have long believed St. Matthew, one of Jesus' disciples, was finally laid to rest here long after his death. Lead diver Dmitry Gorn said the stamped pot fragment was truly unique. Experts are now working on the identification of the writings on the stamp, but it's supposed to be Armenian and Syrian, he was quoted as saying by the Siberian Times. If that proves to be correct, it will be further evidence that there was an Armenian monastery on Issyk-Kul in the 14th century where, according to the legends, the relics of Matthew were stored. Another widely held view is that the evangelist is entombed in Salerno Cathedral in Italy, which is dedicated to the saint. The Saka people of Central Asia were mentioned by Greek historian Herodotus, who lived in the 5th century BC, and were consumers of an ancient intoxicating drink of the gods called soma. The level of the lake, the 10th largest in the world by volume and surrounded by the dramatic Tian Shan Mountains, has risen dramatically since ancient and medieval times, which is why the ruins now lie underwater. The mysterious Sitkul has no known outflow, although some experts claim it is linked to a local river by a channel deep underground. It was on the old Silk Road, and is the world's second largest saline lake after the Caspian Sea. The underwater archaeological expedition allowed us to find a previously unknown Saka settlement with evident signs of bronze casting production on the bottom of Lake Sitkul, said Gorn. The expedition team conducted excavation using hydraulic pump, metal detectors and other appliances. We lifted over 200 items, among them mainly pieces of ceramics, whetstones for sharpening knives, a piece of bronze ritual sickle, and many pieces of slag and traces of casting production. We managed to find a complete ceramic jar, supposedly belonging to Sakayushan culture, which was most likely used for rituals because it was found near a burial site. Senior Orthodox Churchman Vladimir, Metropolitan of Tashkent and Central Asia, is on record as saying, Saint Matthew died in Syria. His followers, escaping from Rome's persecutions, brought the relics of the apostle to this land. The sanctity was kept in an abbey, located on a beach of Sitkul, and all the Christian world knew about this fact. A 14th century map by cartographer Abraham Kresks has been cited as supporting this view. The latest archaeological expedition was led by senior Kyrgyz scientist Dr. Vladimir Ploskik, who in 2007 discovered another underwater ancient metropolis at the lake, along with eroded Scythian burial mounds. Among the finds were bronze battle axes, arrowheads, self-sharpening daggers, objects discarded by smiths, casting molds, and a faceted gold bar that was a monetary unit of the time.
10. Saudi Arabia's Stonehenge. Etched with ancient Thammuda graffiti, these monuments to a long-extinct culture have maintained their lonely vigil for 6 millennia. Many have fallen over and others lean at bizarre random angles. Al-Rajajil, the sandstone stele weighing up to 5 tons each, is popularly called Saudi Arabia's Stonehenge. They are possibly the oldest human monuments on the peninsula. Sometime in the Chalcolithic, or Copper Age, people living in the area where Al-Juf is today laboriously erected 54 groups of rudely trimmed stone pillars. Each group contains 2 to 19 pillars. At ground level there is no immediately obvious placement of the groups. However, aerial images suggest a rough alignment to sunrise and sunset. There is no positive answer to the question why they are there. An archaeological dig over 30 years ago at the base of one set of pillars failed to turn up any bones, or votive offerings, suggesting that religious motives were not the reason. Political or astronomical reasons are a possibility, though not proven. It is possible that it is a landmark for a trade route. Al-Juf was a significant stopover point on the trade route from Yemen to Mesopotamia. One trade route, the oldest land route in recorded history, ran from Yemen and parallel to the Red Sea coast through Medina, Al-Ula and Madan Salih. It turned northeast to Al-Juf and then north toward Damascus and Turkey. The Arabian Peninsula and Saudi Arabia in particular has hugely rich archaeological wealth. Much can be definitively written into history, but the standing stele of Al-Rajajil remains an enigma. There is much about this world, the physical and the spiritual, that we still do not know or understand. Principal among these mysterious objects is collection of some 50 groups of stone columns erected at what is today called Al-Rajajil, translated as the Men, near the ancient oasis town of Sakaka in Al-Jawf province in northwestern Saudi Arabia. The monument is located at 040.13.199 longitude and 29.48.664 latitude, and the site itself is on high ground, overlooking a large low-lying area to its north, according to the Saudi Commission for Tourism and Antiquities. The pillars, dubbed the Stonehenge of Saudi Arabia, are believed to have some sort of connection to, and are roughly aligned with, sunrise and sunset and date back to the 4th century BC. A signboard at the site tells the curious visitor that many stone tools, such as arrows, drills and scrapers have been discovered. Over the years, at the site, some of these tools have been traced to the end of the Neolithic area, providing researchers with some clue about its origin. However, there is still no idea why people actually built these pillars. Rajajil Standing Stone Signboard. Photo credit, Why Cambodia Commons? Interestingly, a 2011 SCTA report explained that the stones appeared to be in compact and straight lines. The report also says that while some stones rose to more than 3.5 meters in height, others do not exceed 50 centimeters. It is presumed that the shorter columns are the fallen remains of the longer ones. The thickness of the columns, on average, is roughly 75 centimeters, and some of the stones carry engraved texts which are still being deciphered. These columns are believed to be primarily a religious site or second-class graves. SCTA's Thamurad al-Malki, the author of the report, notes, adding, "We hope researches and excavations will reveal to us the secrets of the site."